in the muddy, hellish trenches of World War I. One of the most common complaints wasn't about the enemy, but the smell. Soldiers, crammed together in filth for weeks on end, described the stench as unbearable, like rotting garbage. It was a smell that clung to everything: their clothes, their food, their skin. But for a group of Allied soldiers, that misery was about to change, thanks to an unsung group of heroes who were often overlooked and underestimated: Black American soldiers. This isn't just a story about hygiene. It's a story about ingenuity, dignity, and quiet defiance in the face of overwhelming prejudice. The units we're talking about were often segregated, relegated to labor battalions far from what was considered the real fighting. They were given the jobs no one else wanted: digging ditches, burying the dead, and hauling supplies. They were seen as laborers, not innovators. But in the bleak landscape of war, they proved everyone wrong. Picture this. You're a soldier. You haven't had a proper wash in a month. You are caked in mud, infested with lice, and suffering from trench foot. Morale is at rock bottom. The constant dampness and filth are as much an enemy as the shells flying overhead. This was the grim reality for thousands. The Army's standard bathing facilities, when they existed at all, were crude, inefficient, and often miles behind the front lines. For many, a bath was just a bucket of cold, dirty water. But then, word started to spread about something remarkable. A new kind of facility was popping up, built by Black engineer and labor units. These weren't just makeshift showers. These were masterpieces of battlefield engineering, built from scrap materials with incredible resources. Soldiers from these units, like the 317th Engineer Battalion, scavenged everything they could find: discarded barrels, broken pipes, wood from bombed-out buildings, and even parts from wrecked vehicles. Using this battlefield debris, they designed and constructed mobile and stationary bathhouses that were nothing short of miraculous. Imagine a system where they could heat large quantities of water using improvised boilers, often fueled by salvaged coal or wood. They engineered complex pipe systems to create multiple shower heads, allowing dozens of men to wash at once. This was a game changer. Suddenly, instead of a miserable wipe down with a damp cloth, soldiers could experience the soul-restoring feeling of hot, running water. But they didn't stop there. Their creations were holistic systems for delousing and disinfection. Alongside the showers, they built delousing chambers. Soldiers would strip off their uniforms, which were then taken to be steam cleaned in large, sealed containers, or fumigated with chemicals to kill the lice in their eggs. This was crucial, as lice were not just a nuisance. They spread trench fever, a debilitating disease that could take a soldier out of action for weeks. While their uniforms were being cleaned, the men would shower. After the hot shower, they would be issued clean, deloused clothes. Stepping out of one of these facilities was like being reborn. It was more than just getting clean. It was a restoration of humanity. For the first time in weeks, soldiers felt human again. The psychological impact was immense. A clean body and fresh clothes could boost a man's morale more than any rousing speech from a general. The efficiency of these operations was astounding. A single unit could process hundreds, sometimes thousands, of men in a single day. Think about the logistics of that. They weren't just running a bathhouse. They were running a full-scale industrial cleaning operation in the middle of a war zone. They managed the flow of men, the heating of water, the delousing of garments, and the redistribution of clean uniforms with clockwork precision. And they did all this while facing the daily threat of artillery fire and the pervasive poison of racism. These black soldiers were often treated as second-class citizens by the very army they served. They were given inferior equipment, worse rations, and were subject to segregation and disrespect. Yet, they didn't let that stop them. Their work ethic and ingenuity spoke for themselves. They took a task that was seen as menial, keeping people clean, and turned it into a science that saved lives and fortified the spirit of the Allied armies. Commanding officers quickly took notice. Generals who initially dismissed the idea soon saw the tangible results. The rates of trench fever and other filth-related diseases dropped significantly. In divisions that had access to these facilities, more importantly, morale soared. A clean, healthy soldier is a more effective soldier. The work of these black units was no longer seen as just labor. It was recognized as a vital contribution to the war effort. Their reputation grew. Soon, divisions were competing to get access to the services of these units. The soldiers who once smelled like garbage were lining up for the chance to use the incredible facilities built by men they might have previously looked down upon. In that small moment, under the spray of hot water in a shower built from scraps, some of the barriers of prejudice began to wash away, if only for a little while. The white soldiers who benefited from this ingenuity saw firsthand the skill and dedication of their black counterparts. It was a powerful, undeniable demonstration of their value. These bathhouses were more than just buildings. They were symbols. They were symbols of resilience, proving that even with limited resources and facing systemic discrimination, excellence could shine through. They were symbols of dignity, providing a basic human comfort that transformed the lives of soldiers on the front. And there were symbols of the unheralded contribution of African American soldiers to the war effort. When we think of war heroes, we often picture soldiers charging into battle. But heroism takes many forms. The men of these engineer and labor battalions were heroes of a different kind. Their weapons were hammers, wrenches, and ingenuity. Their battlefield was the realm of logistics and sanitation. Their victory was measured in the number of lives saved from disease and the number of spirits lifted from despair. So the next time you hear stories from the world wars, remember the men who fought the war against filth. Remember the black soldiers who, when handed scraps, built systems that changed everything for the men in the trenches. They didn't just wash away the dirt. They washed away a little bit of the misery and inhumanity of war, reminding everyone that even in the darkest of times, a little bit of care and ingenuity can make all the difference. Their legacy is a powerful reminder that every role matters, and that true strength often lies in the quiet, essential work that holds everything else together. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as inspiring as I did, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more hidden histories. See you next time.